So the FA Vase, 2022 was a big year for the club. How did it all begin? And that first game in the preliminary rounds, did you think it was going to go as far as it did? And how do you prepare for them games when you're probably focusing more on the league at that point?
Yeah, we were actually. Yeah, we were. I think in the early rounds, we started the season quite well. Actually, I think we had a couple of good games in the FA Cup, if I remember rightly. We beat Histon in the FA Cup, and we had another one in the FA Cup. I think we were starting quite well. So when the Vase came around, we had Harpenden, I think, in the first game. It sort of comes upon you. You don't give a lot of thought to it, other than it's a game, it's a cup game. You want to win it. We didn't think too much more of it than that. I think it was the same for the London Coney game that came afterwards.
Yeah, it was a bad time of year for the weather and stuff, wasn't it? The pitch, yeah. London Coney, tough place to go. So it was a bit of not a particularly nice place, not a nice game. You're getting through. Once you get 2 or 3 rounds in, then you start thinking, well, we could do a little bit better in this, and we keep ourselves going with it.
Obviously, you beat Harpenden, London Colney, but then it gets to Leighton, and obviously there's that rivalry there as well. So is it at that point maybe you started to think, we take it a bit more seriously here? And
it was a big result, obviously, within the Milton Keynes and town wise, wasn't it? We played well in the game. Although they scored late in, to got themselves into penalties, but we played really well. We should have killed the game off, and it was a comfortable game in the end, although we had to finish it on pens. But we played well that day, and then after that, I thought, we're getting better and better as we're going along now.
Yeah, I think we're definitely the Leighton game was. There's always, obviously, it's a local rival. We know each other quite well, particularly last season. We probably knew each other better than we'll know going forward. We just signed Danny Webb, who had been at Leighton. So there's lots of little elements to it. So obviously it was quite a big game, and I think it was the first crowd that we'd had over 1,000 people at the ground. So, and you're right. I remember I think without saying I think we were the better team over the 90 minutes, but they scored right at the end, and you think, okay, the momentum's with them going into penalties, but luckily the boys managed to.
It was a big step, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Once we did win that one, we sort of thought, next round, and then you're playing well and you get a few home ties, you don't know where you can take it then,
And then going into the next round, it was, on paper, a very comfortable win.
Yeah, was that Pakenham?
Whittlesea.
Oh, sorry, Whittlesea, yeah.
6-0.
Is that the away game, yeah?
Yeah, again, the background to that was strange, because I think we had illness in the camp, we had players unavailable.
COVID as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We had a few out on COVID and that, didn't we? I remember the Friday night.
Yeah, it's one of those Friday nights you were on the phone.
We had 11 players, and Dan, who's our second choice goalie, was in goal, and Conway was on pitch, the goalie, on Friday night.
I didn't even realise that.
Yeah, and then we sort of got a few in. It was...
Yeah, I think we had to... Jake Strong had left the club because he wanted more football elsewhere, but he was still registered to the club. So
same as Michael Lyons, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we called Mickey Lyons back in.
He started the game as well, didn't he, Michael? He came in and played.
Two lads from the academy played, or came along and went on the bench, and we gave them a little bit of game time. So it's one of those where you think, this isn't meant to be. Backs against the wall. We went there with a depleted squad, although probably the starting 11 was still strong, and we played very well, actually.
Yeah, Danny was in good form at that time, wasn't he? Scored a couple of early goals, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
I think Ben Ford scored a couple. Webby scored a couple.
Did he?
Kieran. Yeah.
Probably did.
Yeah, Fordy scored a couple. Yeah, from left back, because I think we didn't have Mo, we didn't have Sage.
Yeah.
We didn't have Burnside. We were really depleted. But it's one of those, and I think we learned a lesson, because I think we went on the coach, and we quickly learned that we shared the coach with the supporters that day, which is something we're not going to do in the future. I think we learned that's not the way to go. But I do remember, and the coach couldn't get to the ground. It had to park down the street, and we were all getting off the coach. And I remember thinking, I think this could be the end of the run if the way it's going. But as it turned out, we really put in a good performance.
Sometimes performance levels are raised in them situations, right? And like you say, you've got youngsters that want to then prove a point.
Yeah.
And they've been given an opportunity, so that's all part of that journey as well. And then you get to the 4th round, right? I think that's what it is, and it's Fakenham at home. Surely at this point you're thinking, we've got to go for it. Are we not quite? Are we still got that eye on the league? And
we wasn't that far in, was we? Still a few more rounds to go, and it was another good tie to be at home finances helped with it. Good crowd again, didn't we?
Yeah. I don't think, for me, we were only thinking, okay, it's another cup game, rather than think, can we?
We're getting closer to Wembley this year.
I think it was the first game though that we probably did a little bit more, because normally, Gaz's very good. He's correct. He concentrates on all the positives that we can do on the pitch. You can only control us as a team, but we did a little bit. The first time we did a bit of background on the opposition, because up until then we played teams from the South Midlands that we sort of knew a little bit about, because we'd only players because we'd only played them the season before, and then Whittlesey we didn't do too much about, but but Fakenham was the first one we probably, even though we weren't thinking too heavily about how far we could go in the Vase, we did do a little bit of background on them. I think we sent Griff to go went and had he went and watched them for us. We got a few reports just to sort of understand what they'll be about a little bit.
Is that the late goal?
No, we won 3-1.
3-1.
Yeah, with Mo scored in the 90th. I think it was a decent performance. I think we were never really in trouble. We scored quite early. I think Jordan scored quite early. We scored 2 goals very early. It was 2-0 for quite a while, and then they got one. And it went to 2-1, and then 2-1. You're thinking, but then I don't think they really looked like scoring again. And then we scored the third one right at the end to kill the game.
And then that's when I think the town woke up.
Yeah.
And people started talking, and I think the club as a whole, everyone started to get behind it and thinking, okay, there's an opportunity here, not only on the pitch but off the pitch as well, to bring more people in. And the next game was at home to Buckland, and I think that's when the crowds started to naturally appear at the games. Do you remember that game specifically as a game where maybe it was switching on, or are we still slightly off? One eye going forwards, one eye on the league.
It's tough to remember how far we was going in the league. Our main concentration was still to be as high as we could in the league. Do you know what I mean? As we was going along, but
there was a bit of, you could feel a little bit of something, because we knew there'd be another crowd, over 1,000 people.
Yeah.
They were coming up from Devon. The competition had gone national, so I think we felt it a little bit. I know other people in the club, because they were saying things, but we literally didn't. We were like, no.
Was it hard to shut that out, or was it not enough?
Not really, because it helps the players' motivation. You know what I mean? They can talk about it all they want. They know they've got to perform to get that next round, isn't it? So it's still ways. We was doing fine.
I know they had to come up. Obviously, coming from them, they came the night before. So
that's what they stayed at the Dons, and
they stayed at the Dons. And then on how we prepared for it was, we could. That was probably one we didn't get lots of information. We didn't know too much about them. That was really like, we've just got to perform, concentrate on our strengths. Didn't know loads about them at all. And if I'm honest, we probably, out of all of the games, we didn't play that well. We certainly didn't play to our potential on that day. I didn't think we played particularly well.
It was that we played badly any points, but that was one of our worst game-wise, wasn't it, through the tournament?
We didn't play well.
Lady luck was needed a little bit that day. We scored late, didn't we?
Yeah.
Scored from a set piece. Alfie scored. Conway got us out of trouble again.
Yeah. So I think that, the momentum was with us in that one when we scored late on, because we hadn't played particularly well. I'm not saying that they played very well.
It wasn't much in the game. It wasn't much. It was just
game.
On our own performance. Wasn't it?
I just didn't think we had played to our levels. We were a little bit off it, but then we got that late goal, and as you say,
pitch heavy at that, wasn't it?
And then I think that next game is where it really started to hit, and we travelled. We all went to Whitchurch, and I've got to say, as an experience, I'm not sure how. Obviously, from your side, you're focusing on the game, but from a fan's experience, that game was a real big eye opener, and everyone travelled in numbers. It was a really good setup from our point of view, and you must have looked over into that corner and seen a huge number of people and thought, wow, this is a moment.
The day was good for that, wasn't it? Because they looked after the game well. They advertised it well. They looked after the away fans, like you said. Yeah. We had a good bit of support.
500 plus Newport supporters.
The town really got behind us then.
I remember we went up in the coach and stopped off the services. Stopped off at the services, and there was Newport supporters at the services. So for me, that was when it really, this is something here. And when we got to the ground, the supporters were there. As Gaz said, they'd organised it really well. They'd had supporters areas. The Newport supporters were all in one area. They're a nice football club, actually. I think on the pitch we'd done, because it was that's quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So we'd done a little.
We had a bit more research about it.
We did a lot more prep.
Watched a couple of times, didn't we?
Yeah, we did a lot more prep on that game to prepare ourselves. I think we had to. I think that's when we start to, as we do,
the fine details
of
make the difference in the game. We made a few tough decisions that day, wasn't it, as well?
I think we had to put Barnsley was
he didn't start, did he? But he come on and finished. Yeah.
Well, talking about that though, like so when it gets to that stage, a few rounds ago, you've got academy kids or youngsters on the bench because players can't make it, they're ill or whatever, and now all of a sudden, we've got something serious to play for here. Your selection becomes more, I suppose, tactical and more not just that, then the pressure, like the experience side of it as well. So is it at that point you really started to think now about your selection? And
I think we do that for every game.
Yeah, I was going to say the squad is quite competitive.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? We do have a decent amount of numbers in us, so it's a regular thing for us that most of the time there's someone that's not too happy, or we get a bit lucky, someone's injured or suspended.
Yeah, I think I'd gone up and watched Church in the week with Jimmy Stoyles, which is always an experience because I remember we went and watched him.
You say more than 10 minutes?
Well, yeah, I have to go because if we send him, we're not too sure how long he'll stay and watch the game. He's that much of an expert. He gets everything done in 15 minutes. But we went and watched them midweek. They were playing in Birmingham, a league game. I don't remember. He insisted at first of standing near their dugout, which I wasn't so keen on. And then one of their players made a really bad tackle early on, which was a dubious tackle. And he was shouting, "Ref, he's got to go! Send him off!" In earshot of their bench, because obviously if he gets sent off, he gets suspended for the game. So I remember that. So I had to move him away after that. So no, this is not quite right. But we had watched Whitchurch. We did quite a bit of background on them, and I think our selection was really based on what we thought their strengths were. They were if I remember, they're quite an experienced football team, weren't they? And it was an away game as well.
White Lad was doing well for him, scoring all their goals, wasn't he?
Exactly.
Not sure he was actually fit on the day.
No.
He'd been missing and he'd come back in, and then he went off actually injured.
Yeah, but I think
Pryke had a good game against him, to be fair.
He did, yeah. Well, I think we played well that game. For me, that was a real solid team performance.
It was a nervy start, wasn't it? We had a nervy 5-6 minutes, but then after they scored, I think the lads just thought, not sod it, but they sort of thought, let's just have a go, and they did play, and they did play really well. Especially middle of the park was really dominant that game.
Yeah, second half.
Took the game to them. Yeah, did play well.
And then we shot towards the fans, I think, if I'm right.
Into
the fans. Yeah,
Yeah, we did. I think Mo really came into the game, and then Webby
scored a good
goal to win it. And then I think all the way through we pride ourselves on our teams being very defensively solid as we can. We got some really solid defenders last season, obviously with Alfie, Jordan, obviously Conway in goal, Pryke, Sage, whoever it is. We back ourselves to be defensively always. We set ourselves out to be very strong defensively, and then if the chances come, we hope we take them. And I think that was a bit all the way through the Vase. We were defensively quite solid.
It was tough to beat, which you have to start out.
Yeah, when you look at it, we didn't really concede many goals through the whole competition, actually.
Yeah, no,
when you just look at the results now, so that's true.
Zeros and ones,
and then semi-final, and we get rewarded with a home tie, which I think was the blessing. Because as I'm sure you'll agree, let's turn to the support then, because this is where the town really stepped up.
I mean the game before when all the fans, of
course, from the away,
amazing
from bring
the
it
town,
home.
Was and then they carried it on, didn't they, through that day? That was a real good day for the football club, the town.
It's quite an emotional day. Yeah. For me, that was a more emotional day.
Probably not great for the committee. We'll have to do a bit of extra work, didn't they?
It's a lot to organise. I think, because I think the semi-final was harder. They would say any level of football, the semi-final was harder than the final because, you don't really remember you remember it, but you don't really. It's a semi-final. You want to get to a final. Obviously when you get to a final, you want to win it. But it was a semi-final, and for our level of football, and for us, the chance, you won game 90 minutes away from actually playing at Wembley.
I think even when we were speaking to the Littlehampton guy in the final, the semi-final was your final that your rewards were to get to go.
I was going to say, the conversation prior to that semi.
Yeah.
Obviously,
we made it a final for the whole day. That your rewards will take care of themselves.
And is that kind of the conversation you had with the players?
Yeah, that was everything.
Like, this is your opportunity.
Wasn't it?
This is it. Yeah, this is the final as such. You know,
They were probably the best team we played through the tournament.
Yeah, no, definitely they were the strongest team we played.
Close game, tough game. We played well that day, but so did they.
Yeah, they were strong, very strong physical side.
I remember when they were coming, a lot of fans were saying they're a more older, experienced set of players that won't take any rubbish, basically.
No, they were top of their league. They won their league in the end, so they got promotion. They hardly lost any.
I think they got to a lot of finals.
They've gone up, haven't they? They've gone up to step 4.
Yeah, they were a good side.
We picked a couple of bigger, stronger boys for the day, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we'd been playing. We sort of thought, no, we've got to be able to at least match that because they were competitive.
I think we had an issue at right back because Adam Bright was injured, which was not he
just
was suspended
when he got 2 bookings. He was suspended.
Really tough for him because
that's why Robbie Goodman come in and played that day and then become part of the squad for the final, didn't we? Let him come for the day as well.
I think that was in our thinking that we needed another defender.
To get there.
That had to be a physical defender sort of thing, and obviously we knew Robbie, so we got him in for that, and he knew that it was to help us get to the final. If we got to the final, obviously the boys that got us there would be the ones that would play in the final. And
then the final, which went well, the penalties happen and everyone goes crazy, and then the realism hits. Everyone's off to Wembley, and
the build up to it within the town, wasn't it? I mean, like. Not that I like them, but the interviews and the TV reports and everything else that comes with it was brilliant for the football club. You know, great marketing for them. You know, good to get our name out there. Brand was it? It picked us up going forwards. A bit more fans, a bit more people to come and support us. You know, the week leading up to it before the Wembley was just as good as the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the whole. I enjoyed. First of all, you sort of like this. It still doesn't sink in that you're going. I think from the semi-final, we won the semi-final. Semi-final was quite emotional. I think afterwards, you think, Christ, we've actually done it. You know, you're seeing people, supporters, people associated,
even ex-players that that have been part of the club for ages. Sometimes they can not get, but even they were like, couldn't be more happier for the football club, for the other players. You know.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of. It's surreal and it doesn't sink in that you've actually made it to Wembley. And then as it gets nearer and nearer, obviously you start to think more and more about, right, we're at Wembley, what do we have to do? The whole build up is what we enjoyed because we had was it 4 weeks almost? We finished our league campaign.
I remember we was in terrible form in the league, wasn't we?
We weren't playing particularly well.
Yeah.
I think we more or less had our last league game and we had at least 3 weeks, it might have been even 4 weeks before the final. So it could have worked both ways, I think. It could have worked that we were going to be rusty and not have enough competitive football, or it could have worked the other way. And I think what we did...
Refreshed it a little bit. We had a bit of time off.
We more or less did we had about a week. We gave them 7 days off and then we did almost like a pre-season.
Yeah.
Because what we wanted to do is get them... I mean, we didn't... I think this is where we probably, the final, why we performed like we did. We didn't leave anything to chance. You know, yes, you're happy to be there, but once you're there, you want to win. And I think we sat down and we went through we planned everything meticulously. And I think that the football club as a whole really got behind us and everything we asked that we needed.
The lads did as well.
Yeah,
they took it on board and they did. You know, they were training probably 3-4 times a week. If they wasn't training with us, they're training themselves. You know, we've done a lot of fitness work. Got good games in. You know, we did finish the league. We had Harbour last game of the season, didn't we? We won the league. It was a good side, so it was a good finish of the things, and we drew 2-2. So that gave us a little bit of confidence, a little bit of momentum that we wasn't that bad because we was on a poor run.
Yeah, MK Dons helped us out.
Yeah, they did.
We used that as a little bit of an experience of how Wembley will be, pitch dimensions, how we want to be, how we want to prepare. I think that all of that prep that we did really set us up for the day. And I think the big thing that we did, we went down to Wembley on the Thursday before, and we were actually in Wembley the exact time we'd be kicking off, just to get a feel of the temperature, because I know everyone says it's really hot at Wembley, and it was. So with that, we made adjustments again. That we had Griff and Ben Hill come helped in, and they were great. They come
big ice buckets,
ice buckets, towels. We didn't leave anything to chance.
Someone mentioned this to me about the small differences. Apparently, Littlehampton had a bag of water. You had water and ice, and them little details can be the difference.
Ben come on board for the day and helped. He's quite meticulous in organising stuff that he thinks. I knew he'd be good to it, so all the lads had some bags of stuff, sort of everything they needed for the day, whether it was energy bars or whatever they needed for it, tapes, got them all sets, ice and towels and everything. He set them up good, or what, every bit of prep work that they didn't have no excuses anyway. That's what he did.
And I think the actual game itself, I mean, before that we'd obviously done quite a bit of background on Littlehampton as best as you could. Again,
yeah, because they were flying, weren't they?
They were flying. I mean, their stats were unreal. So they were walking. They basically won their league. They were in about 3 or 4 different cup
200 goals for the whole season, didn't they?
They had one striker that scored 40 and another striker that scored almost 50 goals.
Yeah.
But I do remember that we said, okay, they're a good team, and they were a good team. Probably we got everything right, and maybe they didn't, and we performed on the day, and they didn't. So I won't take anything away from them. I mean, but we're a good team. So, but I do remember our respect a little bit that, okay, 2 strikers that scored that many goals. How strong is their league for 2 strikers? I don't think in the league that we play in, is a very tough league, especially last year. There's some strong teams in it. And we were saying, I'm not sure anybody in our league would have scored 40 or 50 goals. The depth of the league is too strong. So even though the stats and everyone was saying you're underdogs, which we were happy with, because the stats show that we should be underdogs, we had a sneaky feeling they might not be as... There's a saying that we had all the way through. I kept saying, guys, we won't be playing any teams that are much better than the top teams in our league. And that's what we kept saying. So we went and watched them in one of their cup finals, literally I think 2 weeks before we played them. And I remember they were a good side. You could tell they were a good side, a side used to winning, but we saw things in it that we thought, I think we'll have an edge here. We felt we would be physically stronger because we were a physical, strong side.
Mm-hmm. Fit too.
Yeah, fit. And maybe the having that longer prep than they did, because I don't think they had as much prep as we did in terms of time. They were playing more football games, but maybe not as much prep to really concentrate on the game. I think that was...
From a fan's point of view, it was the perfect game, wasn't it? Like from our point of view, I mean, Barnes' goal, that's one that will be remembered for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, he'll keep reminding you anyway.
He's constantly on social media reposting it. But it didn't, there wasn't a point where we were ever worried. Did you feel that?
No, I mean, the game looks like itself. We knew that. We've done everything, like Gaz just said, about the prep to it. We was comfortable if the other team had the football. We sort of set up when everyone knew what jobs they needed to do, and then we was comfortable with it. And once the early goal did help, or relatively early, do you know what I mean? It settles everyone down. It gets us on the front foot, gets us settled, you know, and the other team has sort of become chasing the game then, which ended up suiting us for the type of team that we had and subs that we could make. Yeah. So after the goal, certainly wasn't easy, but it certainly sort of helped the day plan out how we were planning it. Ended up being exactly how it worked, sort of thing. And
then seeing the green wave of 7,000 people on the far side. I mean, we didn't get to experience that being in that, but it was an experience for us. But for you guys standing over there and seeing that,
you were lucky you was out of the sun because it was boiling in that sun. Yeah. He was just in the shade, which was still hot. But no, I mean the players.
I think it was great because in a way it was better because it was right opposite where we were, so the supporters were there rather than being behind you.
Yeah.
Yes, you can hear the noise a little bit more if it was behind you. Although we had behind you still
friends and family
and supporters behind, but we were basically facing where all the Newport fans were. So yeah, it was great. I think as I said, the goals. If you were as football managers and coaches, if you write down when you want to score goals, you always say, we'll get a goal in the first 10 minutes. Then you'll go into half time leading, and then we'll get a goal early in the second half. This is exactly what we did, and then you'll get another one midway through. So it sort of, because of the goals happened at the times they did, made the game that probably a little bit more comfortable to take the experience in a little bit more. So yeah.
And then obviously coming back to Newport, the scenes were crazy. Everyone was rallying, party atmosphere. How was it for you guys?
Yeah, we stayed in London. We stayed in London, yeah, with the players and that for the next day.
Some of us came
that
back.
night was an enjoyable night, wasn't it? And then obviously we went out the following day after that down in London as well. But I think most of them got a bit top heavy on the night before anyway. So they were
deservedly so.
Yeah. The town was, they even after for a good couple of weeks after, wasn't they? There was
everyone was buzzing,
talking about it a lot.
And I think probably more. I think after the game is of course it just I mean, for us as sort of management and staff, you sort of you put so much into it, and then after it's like any game, isn't it? We actually sometimes feel more relieved.
Yeah,
that you've achieved something.
After 3 or 4 days, I've had enough of it.
Yeah. So, and I think actually, it was the open top bus tour was probably the nicest part. Because it was afterwards, but it was.
It was a little while after, wasn't it? They had the carnival in town, which I thought, I didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but all the town and everything really embraced it. It was really like complimentary, said well done. There wasn't like, oh, what are these boys showing that trophy off sort of thing for? It was really good part.
Well, I think that shows though the town really did come together.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just pockets of people. It was everyone was really genuinely supportive. I think all the shops had flags in the windows. Yeah. You've got a Christmas light now. Like everyone really did come together. So
lights,
cool. And then I suppose that leads you on then into the next season and your focuses. How does the Vase winning the Vase affect the way you maybe prepare for a new season and then going into the Vase into the next season? Are you now thinking of that competition differently?
The Vase, once we started the next season, we knew we had to get 1 or 2 or 3 more different players in, because otherwise that group would have just been talking about the Vase for the whole season. Obviously that was done and we had to move on to the next season and try and get higher up the league than what we finished the previous season. So we knew we had to have 1 or 2, and that normally happens on a flow that some people will leave, which was disappointing, the ones that are left sort of thing, but that was all part of football. So it quickly becomes the new season starting, new players, new team, get yourself sort of going again. They still will talk about it, they still, enjoy that time, that's never going to go. But we have got some new ones now that have certainly helped the changing room, and just to focus on this season, and, it's all about this season now, how far we can go in that, how far we can do in the league. Just try and be in.
Yeah, I think that we always put pressure on ourselves anyway. We want to be successful. So obviously added pressure that you have a bit more of a target.
Yeah, we did have the targets, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the rubbish the other managers were saying to you during the game was like ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you take that. You sometimes you expect it. You hope you don't, but I think we've gone into the season. We last season was great because of the Vase. We were always striving to be the best. So we're disappointed that we didn't manage to get promotion in the league. And yes, we can use the Vase as a bit of an excuse, but I don't think it really was. We should have used it more as momentum. And but it was difficult in the end because we were trying to play catch up with two teams in our league that were very, very strong last season in Harbour and Hinckley. But it'll be difficult again this season. Again, getting out of the level of football that we're at is quite difficult. If you're not winning the league, it's very difficult to get out of. The levels below and the levels above, you have playoffs. Our level, you can have a playoff if you finish second, but then that's against the team. You're not having playoff in your same division, which is a bit strange of the FA how they do step 5 to get out of it, but it's quite tough.
So this season then, how are we feeling? Obviously the aim, promotion. It's going strong. How are you feeling?
Yeah, we're in a relatively okay position. We're probably 3-4 points of games that we probably slipped up, we could have got a couple more points in, but we're doing okay. I think the second half of the season's got to be better than the first, but that's normally, if you're going to be a top team, that's normally the case. So we've started all right. We've got lots to play for. Obviously, we're still in the Vase. We've won. How many games we had in this year? Just a couple, wasn't it? Or one?
2.
The 2?
2.
Yeah.
Two.
Yeah, two in it so far, and obviously we've got another derby game coming up for that Vase game, so it's another one to look forward to for the club as a whole, which we're at home. And the league, we're quietly confident that we can have a better second half of the season than what we have in the first. And the first half has been pretty good so far as well. So we've just got to keep that momentum going.
After a qualification statement of intent, whoever we drew was wherever we went. And a final day at the national ground, were spoken of silently from hand-covered mouths. Oh, the swans are taking me all the way to Wembley, and although that turf is hollow, my heart remains at will and roam. I keep waking up wondering if it's all a dream, that I'm waiting for the carpet to be pulled from my feet, 'cause truthfully it still doesn't make sense. And when pleasures pave the way for anxiety, then it's time to go and offer some history. Oh, Newport are massive everywhere they go. Oh, the swans are taking me all the way to Wembley, and although that turf is hollow,
Right for Hamworthy, and he's saved again! James Sage stepping up for Newport Pagnell Town to send to Wembley, and it's scored! And Newport Pagnell Town are going to Wembley for the first time in their history to face Littlehampton.